Hey folks, it's Rob Flux here with another Sunday session, and today we're going to be talking all about mindset, and more specifically the mega successful mindset that you need in order to get critical success in your property development journey. In order to do that, I've got two very special guests in here. I've got two of the coaches from within my property development formula program. I have Mr. Simon Caruso. Welcome to the stage, my friend. And I also have Megan Hodge. Megan, welcome.
Thanks, Rob.
Now, I've just noticed that I've lost my head, so let me see if I can raise the screen. There you go, look at that. Through the magic of television, I can raise my camera. Wow. How are we all, folks?
Great, awesome, good to be here, Rob. Long time in the making.
Thank you, mate, thank you. Now, I might start with a very simple definition, because a lot of people in a lot of other programs out there talk about their coach, and in a lot of instances, they're actually referencing what is technically a mentor. So I want to, I guess, have the point of distinction that a coach is for about mindset and a mentor is for skills. And so if somebody is giving you coaching, they should be giving you the mindset to actually move forward. Now, I like to think of it as the coach is the person who gets you to take action, and the mentor is the person who makes sure it's the right action. Is that kind of a good summary of how to put that together?
Perfect, Rob. Yep.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you. So that said, folks, coaches in our program, all about mindset. I can say categorically that mindset was one of the biggest things that impacted me on my journey right at the very start. And so I knew the impact and significance of having a coach and had a personal coach very early on. I'm going to say my first mindset coach was, I'm going to say, close to 18 odd years ago. And that was very mission critical in me changing just the way I viewed the world and how I looked at problems and I guess got myself into solution mode. And that's why it was so critical to get people like yourselves into our program. So I'm very grateful for you guys being in here. So now we're going to talk about some great mindset challenges that people see, because everyone sees the problem, but we're going to try and get into solution mode. But before we do, why don't we give us a little bit of background about yourselves. I'm going to go ladies first. Megan, give it, what's your background? Why are you qualified to be here? Why should we be listening to you today?
Well, that could open up a rabbit hole there, Rob. But essentially, I've been coaching for nearly 10 years now. And I got into coaching very organically. I essentially realized I got to a point in my own life where it was my mindset that got me into some pretty dark places. And so I went on a journey of studying mindset, psychology, attachment theory, NLP, all sorts of good stuff. But I did it for my own personal journey. And then I moved to Bali, started running retreats, and people were like, wow, how have you done all of this? And so I started sharing my own journey online, and people started reaching out for coaching. So they were like, how did you change your life? And I want to know more. And so I started helping others. And I absolutely love coaching. I think it's one of the most fulfilling careers that there possibly is.
Absolutely. And for those of you who haven't come across Megan before, Megan has I guess I'll say a novelty prop that she has with her all the time, which is every time she has a drink of water, it comes out of a wine glass. So everyone thinks that she's a wino. And I've chosen that today I'm going to join her. So thank you. So, cheers to you.
Cheers, Rob. But I'm actually a non-drinker, which is the funny thing. So
I am not. But it is water in the glass today, I can assure you. Now it's telling me anyway, let's go forward. Simon, mate, give us a little bit of insight about you and your background. You and I met each other I'm going to say 7 or 8 years ago on a public speaking gig, mate.
Absolutely, yeah. So look, my background, I got into coaching because of property. So I'm a first generation Aussie, and my parents were sort of working middle class, and I knew I had to do something different probably by the time I got to my late teens. So I was fortunate that I met someone who was into property, who ended up marrying one of my cousins, who I'm still really good friends with today, and got my first property in my early 20s and just sort of fumbled my way through a process, but really got great benefit from it because I made 70 grand from the first deal and I was hooked after that. So from that point, I really took a keen interest in understanding my own psyche and how I was able to change my thinking and continue to change my thinking over the journey, which is how I got involved in the personal development space and getting my coaching credentials. And then even before that, to be honest, Rob, wanting to get well-versed at public speaking to really improve my skills to communicate that message, which is where I met you at the Speakers Institute in Sydney many years ago now. I reckon it was 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago.
In that vicinity, and almost immediately afterwards, I ran a mindset event called the Psychology of Property Development, and you turned up to the very first one of those to try and understand the mindset of being a property developer, mate. So you've been very much a part of our journey for a very long period of time, and also both Megan and Simon are based in Adelaide, but Simon actually runs I guess our meetups in Adelaide as well. So he's a regular on stage there whenever I can't be in town. So thank you very much for that, mate. Now, all of that is fantastic. That's who we are. But what are we here to solve today? And what we see turn up is a whole bunch of problems where people only, there's always a positive and a negative side of things, but most people see the negative and they can't see the positive. So we're going to kind of highlight how people see it, but more importantly, what we can actually do about it, because we want to say what is the mindset that we need as opposed to what's the mindset that shows up. So one of the first things that I see on a regular basis is lack of clarity. People not clear on what it is they want to achieve and kind of wishy-washy, and they're flip-flopping everywhere. How do you guys see that start to turn up when people turn up into your coaching calls?
Yeah, so lack of clarity is a big one. And one of the key indicators where people lack clarity generally is the indecisiveness. So not knowing what decision to make and essentially not making a decision at all, which is actually making a decision, right? So we see that a lot. Also, a lot of self-doubt as well, which is a symptom of, the lack of clarity. That is second guessing everything that you're doing. And also having a short attention span as well. So just jumping around from too many things because you're not clear. So, I mean, you can imagine getting in a car, if you don't know where you're going, you're just aimlessly driving around. And so they're the three key things that I see, Rob, on a very regular basis.
Well, just on that, if you don't know where you're going, I have actually got a phrase of my own. You can register trademark against this one. If you don't know where you're going, folks, then every bus will take you there.
Very good.
There you go. You heard it here first. So I guess from my side, I see a lot of students turning up without that clarity. And so one of the things that I really want them to actually do is start to narrow in on that and get very clear on one strategy. I then get them to narrow down to one council, which is one set of rules where that strategy starts to work. And then narrow that down to just 3 suburbs. So the strategy selection and then building a 5-year property action plan gives them the clarity of what it is they're actually doing. And they've got a step-by-step kind of process to kind of get there. Now, whilst that's where we guide people, I'm sure that you guys get to see a lot of people who attempt that and fumble at every step. What are some of the things that show up I guess when they don't have the clarity? How does that manifest itself?
Yeah, so it manifests itself through not doing anything at all, okay, and really second guessing what they're doing. So what I found is what we've provided is a really good blueprint of what to do. So people intellectually knowing what to do. So they'll tell me or they'll tell us that, hey, I know how to do this, but there's a massive gap between what they know and actually applying that practically in the real world. So it's just the lack of application, really, overall. That is the overarching aspect that we see. And so a lot of that comes from lack of clarity and just not understanding where they're going, Rob.
Megan, anything to add to that?
I would add, Rob, that many times our students have, they've already had a taste of some type of property experience, but most of them are coming from like a renovation background, or, they might have joined multiple other courses. And I feel like they come into, we're specifically about development, and I do see quite a lot. They know that they consciously know they want to go in that direction, but they're referring back to their old strategy. They're referring back to the comfort zone of what they know. And then that can cause that sort of toing and froing. So they want to focus on property development, but there's something that's holding them back because they don't have the confidence yet, and they don't have the clarity in the property development strategy that we help with.
Yeah, and what I see as a common theme, and I'm not going to pick on any one particular educator out here, but a lot of them start with a notion of start with one strategy. So start with a renovation, earn some cash, what they call chunk money, then roll that over into maybe doing a subdivision, get a little bit of skills, and then roll that over into doing a duplex or a townhouse. And so all the time they're starting again. They're going back to ground zero, learning a new thing. Now, by coincidence, there just happens to be a course on renovations and a course on subdivisions and a course on townhouses, but that's just a coincidence, right? Whereas for me, that clarity is just choose one. Choose one that you're going to get very, very good at. Choose one that you can scale, where you can start small, learn the skills, step up a deal size, do it again, learn from the previous project, both the good and the bad, and this time apply it better the second time round. And if you can start to step up and scale as you go, you're just going to get better and better and better. So otherwise, what you're going to be is you're going to be mile wide and inch deep, whereas I want inch wide and mile deep. And if we can get that clarity, is then going to get us the ability to analyze deals faster. It's the ability to make offers faster. It's the ability to take deals off the table when everyone else is just twiddling their thumbs and thinking about it. And how it shows up for me, or not for me personally, but when people are coming into my world, they sometimes take days or weeks to analyze a site. Whereas when they go through our process, that now changes down to a 10-minute check and a 2-hour check before they're actually able to take it to contract. So that clarity, one strategy, one council, 3 suburbs, we kind of do that. That gives them the clarity they want in knowing exactly what they want at each stage of their journey.
Yeah.
So that said, let's move on to the next one that I see regularly, fear of failure. Now, I also see fear of success turning up quite from time to time, but fear of failure, how are you guys seeing that show up?
This is a huge one. So usually we get students coming into the program, they're all excited, they're ready to go. They know Rob Flux is the mentor for them, the educator for them, and they come on board, and then all of a sudden, sort of week 2, 3, they start, their fears and their doubts and their insecurities start bubbling to the surface. That's what Simon and I are here for. But it's understandable. So that fear of failure, is coming because the stakes are really high. But what I see with students and their mindset is that they're self-imposing the pressure as well. So, we've got the financial investment side of property, we've got the market unpredictabilities, we've got this pressure to succeed. But it's mostly from themselves. It's that self-imposed pressure to succeed quickly as well that adds to that fear of failure. And it really can become quite overwhelming. And that's the first kind of roadblock that I see come up in coaching. They get all overwhelmed. And really that's only stemming from a lack of experience. They're essentially learning a new career, and they don't give themselves that time and that permission to learn. And so that's coming from their lack of experience, but also uncertainty about the process, right? If they haven't done it before, how do they know, how do they have that confidence and that certainty that what they're doing is going to pay off? And also the biggest part in the fear of failure that I see come up is they're always projecting their past setbacks, and they're assuming that the future is going to be exactly like the past. So they're essentially putting that onto the present situation without even giving themselves a chance, really. So that's the biggest one that I see in terms of fear of failure.
Well, and it just kind of popped into my head, and that's got nothing to do with what you're talking about. But when you say projecting from the past onto the future, every ad in the superannuation space says past performance does not necessarily reflect future performance. So if that can happen with I guess those sorts of things, why can't it happen in our world as well? That's kind of how I'd throw that out there. Now, fear itself is an acronym. So it's got multiple different meanings that I've heard across many, many times. So I guess there's there's stuff, everything, and run. I won't say the first. What are some of the other versions of the acronyms that you guys have heard?
False evidence appearing real. That's the common one.
False evidence.
So, and most of it doesn't come true. Almost all of it, to be honest, that we fear doesn't actually come to fruition. So that's another important thing to know as well.
Look, one thing that I learned quite a while ago is that the thing that creates the most amount of pressure is actually artificial. So it's actually time. So when we put a deadline on something, do you believe that you can learn to be a property developer if you put no deadline? Yeah, I can learn it. Might take me a few years. But if I say, can I do that in 6 months, and I put a time bound on that, all of a sudden it's, I've got to do this. So if we can just kind of relax on the time side of things and allow the process to actually unravel and go through, we are learning a new career and that sort of thing. If we can actually do that, it takes away so much pressure. It's not funny. Now, obviously, there are some people who actually have some time constraints and some time pressures and that sort of thing. And we've got to put that into perspective. But, it's not about that being the only element. Anything else you want to add to fear of failure?
Yeah, I'd like to add that the way that Simon and I help our students the most is we really help people, as we know, with their mindset. And the way that you would do that specifically when it comes to overcoming fear of failure is shifting your mindset from seeing failure as, that dead end to an opportunity for learning. And one of my favorite mindset reframes, and Simon has heard this many times, and so have many of our students, but there are no failures. We're only ever winning or learning. And we want to repeat that over and over again until that becomes part of our, subconscious programming, essentially. So we can't fail, so long as we don't give up, we're only winning or learning.
Absolutely. Now, and that learning phase, that I guess the mistakes that we're going to have, the whole point of going through this learning phase is to try and do failures on paper. Okay. The only time you actually lose money is when you're in a shitty deal. So we want to, I won't say deliberately, but structure it so that you actually put yourself in a position where you are going to make a mistake and you can get the learning that comes from it. So we want you to fail often, fail safely, and fail falling forward. And if you could do that, then the lesson comes in how you actually respond to that. Because if everything goes right, then you don't know how to deal with the problem when it actually turns up. And so you actually need to have the problems show up to actually learn, which is one of the reasons why we run our real deals at our meetups, because we want to show people, look, there are going to be problems. There's going to be headaches. There's going to be obstacles that you have to overcome. They have a financial toll, they have an emotional toll and a time impact, but let's take the lesson from them and go, how do we learn from the success of someone else and also from the challenges that someone else had and make sure that we don't do the same. So that said, moving on to number 3 in a list, and we've got a whopping list of 10 challenges to actually get through, folks. Lack of focus. So how do we make sure that we actually stay on topic, I should say. So focus, follow one course until success. That's kind of how I learned it way back in the day. How do we do that?
Yeah, so we do that through executing a clear action plan, right? So understanding where we're going. We spoke about that a little bit earlier, having that GPS, but breaking things down into smaller steps as well, because quite often what can happen, we can be very, very big picture and looking way, way too far ahead. That's going to take our attention way to actually what's going on and what we can actually control today and what we can actually execute today, tomorrow, this week. Okay, so really, really important. Also, understanding as well that you can't say yes to everything. Okay, so not taking on too much, and actually less can be more. So quite often people want to try and do everything at once, and it's just impossible to do that. So it's a matter of, and Megan, you're going to talk into this, no doubt, but setting boundaries, big boundaries, right? So people, I've had to learn how to do this, guys, and it is one of the most challenging things is actually, putting up those barriers when you need to put them up and say, no, I can't do that. So that's a really, really big one. Shiny, Megan, do you want to jump in at all? Did you want to touch on that?
No, you're doing well. You're right. It's boundaries even with ourselves, right? So I know you're about to jump into shiny object syndrome, which we see a lot with our students.
Yeah.
And it's because we feel, there's something better, but we forget to just focus on what we've got in front of us and executing till the end. So yeah, it really does come down to our own personal boundaries through, mindset boundaries, emotional boundaries, time boundaries. But I could talk about boundaries forever. But it really comes down to what, we want to focus on what we can control, and just take that one step at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Robert, you go.
Yeah, a shiny object artist, right? It's human nature. So always looking for that next big thing. We see that happen as well. And it's just not giving this the time that's required to actually get through the process, learn the skills, and actually execute. So there is no secret is the secret, right? It's just a matter of consistent work over a long period of time to be able to develop the skills to go out there and actually execute. So there's that as well. There's unstructured and unintentional action. So we see this one a lot as well. That's just a lot of clicking around, watching content without actually consuming that content with deliberate application, right? So there's a very, very big difference. And we do a great job of providing content, and there's copious amounts of content you can create, you can actually watch over and over and over again. But unless you're actually taking intentional action, and you're not going to be focused, right? You're not going to progress in your journey of property development, okay? And the last one that I see is the shortcuts. We just want to get there quicker. So we want to try and find a way to, to streamline, to skip a step. And often then that can lead to lack of focus. We'd end up focusing on things that we shouldn't be focusing on instead of the really, really basic stuff, because it really does come down to basics, just done over and over again.
There was a thing that you said, Megan, a little bit through there that kind of sent me on a tangent, and I actually started reaching out and to grab some props. So focus on what you can actually, worry about what you can actually control. So there's a metaphor that I learned many, many years ago, and it's the circle and the square, okay? So the square, here's a prop that I found earlier. The square is everything that we actually care about. Now the circle is everything that we can control. Now, if you put the circle inside the square, you'll notice that there are elements in the corner that we care about, but we can't control. So if we focus our energy on those things that we can't actually control, then we burn a lot of energy that just goes nowhere. So ask yourself the question, is it in the circle? Is it in the square? And if it's in the circle, go do something about it. If it's in the square, let it go.
I love that. I love that analogy.
Okay, next one. Last one. Accountability. So have an accountability buddy. If you're going to focus on something, the best thing that I find is actually tell someone, hey, I'm about to do that. And what that does is the next time you catch up with that someone, they'll go, so how you doing with that thing? And we're either going to get embarrassed because we didn't do anything about it, which will then force us to actually take action, or we're going to stop talking to that friend. So now my advice is actually do something about it. Get yourself an accountability buddy, have regular check-ins, and do that. I guess inside the program, yourselves are those accountability people. That helps people massively in actually saying, well, these are the deadlines of what I've said I'm actually going to go achieve. How did you go? What were the things that got in the way? And usually that unlocks something else, no doubt something else on our list of 10 things today. So next one, procrastination. just thinking about things and not actually doing anything about it. So who's going to lead this one off?
Oh, procrastination is one of my favorite things to talk about. I can see Simon smiling already.
Yes.
The interesting thing about procrastination and self-sabotage is that they're actually not real things, okay? They're just an unmet need. But a lot of people come into the program, as we said earlier, and they do become very overwhelmed initially. And again, there's so many tasks that you need to do when you're starting a new career, right? Whether we're looking at our finances, whether we're understanding regulations of the council, whether we're looking at and researching our markets. And when the brain gets overwhelmed, this can lead to avoidance. And that also is, that fear of making mistakes, especially initially in the start of your journey, and not knowing where to start. But the procrastination piece comes in because it often stems from perfectionism. And I see this a lot in our students. So it's a very sneaky behavior as well. People don't recognize perfectionism until I point it out to them. But really, it's a lack of that clear direction that we were talking about earlier and unmet needs, which creates that procrastination. It's almost like a deer in headlights, where they just sort of, they're paralyzed and they can't move forward. But really, the way that I like to put it is it's a misalignment of our conscious goals and our subconscious goals. So this is where our unmet needs come into play. So when you might have that conscious goal of becoming a property developer, for example, but if you have really strong subconscious needs to stay safe or to stay comfortable, to stay in the cave essentially, then your conscious goal of becoming a property developer cannot outwill or overpower the subconscious mind. So a lot of what I do with my students in particular is that we focus on aligning their conscious goals with their subconscious goals, and then you kind of get on with the goals, almost I'd say in a flow state. It becomes very effortless. So yeah, it's really that procrastination isn't an actual thing. It's just that those unmet needs are sort of overpowering your conscious goals that you think you're trying to work towards.
So why don't we talk about those needs? Because I think there are 6 of them from memory that we, I guess, inherently have within us. So what are the 6 needs, Megan?
Yeah, so needs is one of my favorite things to teach and to talk about. We do have 6 basic human needs. We also have a set of subconscious personality needs, and that's a lot deeper. Not many people actually talk about that, but that's what makes Rob Rob, and that's what makes Simon Simon and Megan Megan. And our subconscious personality needs set determines how we show up in life. So they're the stronger category of needs. And then we also have what's called a tertiary set of needs. So they're our third, they're kind of moment to moment needs, and they can fluctuate. But every single human being on earth do share the 6 basic human needs. And this was made famous by Tony Robbins many years ago. But the needs are in no particular order. We've got growth, love and connection, contribution, significance, certainty, and uncertainty, or which is variety. You can call it variety. Every human being has those needs. And what we see typically with our students, they don't know about their needs. And most of our students have a high need for security, for example, and certainty. So when they're coming into something like property development, where it's the nature of the beast is very much uncertain and there is so much out of our control, then you can see how there's that conflict between their subconscious personality needs and, the career that they've chosen. So that's why they can sort of come undone very quickly if they're not aware of this.
The antidote to that is to get good, educate yourself, and actually learn what you're doing so that you do have certainty in the outcome as much as humanly possible. So anything else that you wanted to add in around that space?
No, not really. People do need to understand, though, procrastination and self-sabotage really is those unmet needs. So one thing I would say, if you don't know about your needs and what priority order you have your needs in, that would be my first go-to. And you can also reframe how you look at things, right? So for example, I would look at property development the way that I can train my brain now, I can look at it as that opportunity for growth. Like I can almost tick every single one of those boxes, right? So that's another thing that you want to do. You want to try and get your needs met on a daily basis, on a consistent basis. And the more needs you can get met, the stronger the pull will be. So for me, property development actually ticks all of those boxes, right? So we've got love and connection in the community, and with obviously our colleagues. We've got contribution because I'm contributing to the landscape of my local community. Significance, well, it does make me feel pretty important, creating something that I never thought I could do in the past. There's a lot of uncertainty. That's a double tick. The certainty for me is about building that wealth and that financial freedom. So I think there is no other way to create that certainty, or no better way rather. And obviously growth. There's a lot of growth in this industry, and learning what to do and getting into your first deal and then progressing from there. So I think property ticks all the boxes for the basic needs. Yeah.
Very good. And for bonus points, folks, if you actually understand those 6 needs, when you get to do negotiations and you can start to read the needs of the person on the other side, then you can actually start to position your solution in a way that solves their needs. And a lot of the time people tell you what they want, but if you can actually work out what they need, then all their wants just kind of slowly dissipate and run away.
Yes.
So that's bonus points, folks. Now, next one, number 5 on the list, overwhelm. Where does overwhelm come from?
Yeah, overwhelm's a big one that we see quite often. It's just looking at the sheer volume of tasks and trying again to look way too far ahead of where you need to be looking. And we see this time and time again with students. They're looking at step 38 when they're really on step number 2 or 3, right? So it's about bringing them back in. And I always say, look, with your permission, can I sort of be that person to slap you around when I have to bring you back into line? And, almost always they're going to say yes, because they understand it's human nature. We want to get there, right? So we want to get to our destination as soon as possible. But in doing so, in wanting to speed up that process, quite often we can get overwhelmed. And we're just looking way, way too far ahead. Just imagine like a weight loss journey, for example. And, if you've got 50 kilos to lose and you're just focused on that 50 kilos, you're going to get overwhelmed pretty quickly about the thought of actually dropping those 50 kilos, as opposed to, I can actually, eat this much today. I can do this exercise. And by the end of the week, maybe I can lose, 0.5 to a kilo, right? Which is tangible. You can actually look at that. You can break it down. It's quite manageable. It takes away a lot of that overwhelm. So that's one part that we see. Another part of overwhelm is listening.
So that's referred to as a micro commitment, Simon.
Okay.
I want 6-pack abs, but I'm only going to get there if I go to the gym. So the micro commitment that I'm going to make is to put my gym shoes on at 6 a.m. Right? And if I put my gym shoes on and I start walking around the house, I start feeling silly that I'm wearing my gym shoes. And so one day I'm actually going to go to the gym. Right? But if I don't put my shoes on, I can never get there. So if you do, what you do is you break it down into the little steps that you need along the way, and you have milestones, and you make each one of those milestones a mini goal. And if you can make that mini goal, then it's very easy to get to the next one. Because otherwise, if it's too far out of reach, then we never actually go for it. So we want it to be just far enough away. It's like an elastic band. If you pull the elastic band, it slowly stretches. But if you try to send it the first time, it snaps. So we don't want to do that. Little micro goals.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And with the micro goals as well, when you do set them and you execute them, and they can be innocuous, right? Small things that you can do. That's how you build your confidence as well, like following through those small little micro goals that you can execute on. Slowly, you do sort of stretch that rubber band, Rob, but you build a bigger tolerance then to taking on bigger micro tasks, bigger challenges, all that stuff, right? And so that's part of the process as well. That's one way to overcome that. The other thing I see though that causes overwhelm is listening to way too many people. Okay, when people actually listen to their family, listen to their friends, the reason people get educated is so they can get themselves around the right people. So just understanding that, yes, everyone has an opinion, but it doesn't mean you have to take that on as advice, right? And so it's understanding who to take advice from, okay, or whose opinion to take on board. And quite often, and these days especially, there's too much information, right? So, back in the day, you couldn't get this information. When we're doing this today, it's going out on YouTube, to a large audience. This wasn't the case not that long ago. And so people now have access to way too much information. It's being able to filter and actually get the right information from the right people, okay? And really, the last one that I see as well is people not actually being specific enough and actually doubling down on one particular thing. So it's about being too spread. And I think you describe it well, Rob. You've got a saying, mile wide, inch deep versus inch wide and mile deep. So it comes down to that as well.
Yeah. The other thing that I see is people just not understanding where they are on their journey. Okay. So there are 4 different phases of learning, folks. So I'm going to go through the 4 phases. So you are unconsciously incompetent, which means you don't know what you don't know. Okay. Then you go to the next stage where you become consciously incompetent. That is, you suddenly realize how much you don't know. And that's where the overwhelm starts to kick in. But if you start to tackle them bite size by bite size, then the next stage is you become consciously competent. That means you know what you're doing, but you have to think about it, and it has to be very deliberate. And then the last stage is you are unconsciously competent, which means that you just do it on autopilot and it just becomes natural. Now, when we go through those 4 phases, everyone goes, oh, I don't know what you mean. But now think back to when you started to learn to drive, when you sat at the wheel and you didn't know which pedal to push and didn't know how to turn the steering wheel, it was very, very overwhelming at that point in time. You knew the theory, but it was quite difficult. Now you drive to work, a lot of the times you don't even think about how you got there. A lot of the times you'll arrive there and you don't pay any attention to what happened on the journey as we go. And that happens with almost everything that we do. We just need to recognize that conscious incompetence is part of the journey. You are going to get overwhelmed because there is a lot to learn. But if you take it down into bite-sized chunks, eat the elephant one bite at a time, then you can, navigate through to the next phase.
Can I just add one more thing to that, please, Rob? So just on that as well, it's also understanding that challenge is part of the process too. And quite often what I see is people getting paralyzed by the challenge or getting overwhelmed by a challenge. So if we can understand up front that's part of the journey as well, and know that there is almost always a solution to every challenge in the world of property development, it just comes down to, is it going to be feasible, right? How much does it cost? And is it worth me actually then executing to continue on? So understanding that up front, and if you come in with that mindset, I find that can sort of, that does definitely alleviate that overwhelm and give you more clarity as well.
Yep. Next one on our list, number 6, we're getting to the tail end of this. Number 6, self-comparison. So comparing ourselves to other people as opposed to just mapping ourselves on our own journey.
Oh, we see this one a lot. This is probably the one that I see the most. Students, particularly new students, come in and they're expecting to be in a deal really quickly. And they often struggle with self-comparison because they're seeing, others achieve success, but they don't realize or acknowledge that everyone's at different stages. So, some people are securing deals, others are completing their projects, others are finding money partners or growing their network, and they're here, newbie student, and they're wanting to be at step 8 when they're at step 1. And the reason that this is it's quite it's disarming, because it leads to feelings, really negative feelings of inadequacy, and maybe there's something wrong with them, and then they get frustrated. And especially when they're comparing their progress or lack thereof, because the first part of obviously being a student is you're learning, and they forget that they are moving forward, but they're looking at more experienced developers or students who are much further along the way. And another thing that I see a lot is that some students come on board and they might be juggling family responsibilities, or they might be looking after elderly parents, or they might have some health problems or a demanding job. And again, the people that they're comparing themselves to might be doing this full time. And that's a huge thing that I see here. So people have really got to, focus on their own journey, because everyone is very unique. Every student that comes through is very unique, and they've got very unique circumstances. And they really want to focus on their own personal growth and their development and their process. But the biggest thing that we do, particularly in coaching as well, is we help them celebrate their small wins along the way. And that can really help them stay focused and come back to like their own lane. They really want to focus on their own lane, because property development is a marathon, not a sprint. And yeah, we see that a lot.
Yeah. Now there's I guess a particular quote from Kobe Bryant. That's one that I kind of live by as a mantra in what I do. So he says that he wants to be 1% better every single day than he was the day before. Okay, so 1% doesn't sound like a lot, that little micro improvement, but it's the compounding effect of that gives you exponential growth in the longer term. So I do that. I have a very specific process that I do. So if anyone wants to become 1% better every day, this is my little tip and trick in how to do that. It takes literally 2 minutes a day. So the first thing that you want to do at the start of the day, you want to take 1 minute to think about, what are my intentions for the day? So what do I want to do? What do I want to achieve? How do I actually do that? And at the end of the day, take 1 minute to reflect on that. How did I go? Did I actually achieve the thing that I actually wanted to achieve? What went right? What went wrong? What are the things that I can actually learn from that? And then tomorrow, we set our intentions again. And the next time, we know that we can actually apply something from the lesson from the day before. Now, do you get it right every single day? No, but that's okay. Even if you go backwards a couple of steps, you've been moving forward 1% at a time. So by the time you get to the end of the week, that's 7%. If you made a stuff up and you go back 2 steps, you're still 5% better than you were the week before. So folks, 2 minutes a day is all it takes, 2 steps. Think about it and then reflect on it. Next one, limited resources. The number of people who've gone, I can't do this because I haven't got the money, I haven't got the time, I haven't got all sorts of things. How does this start showing up?
Yeah, well, everything you just said. So it's our perception that we have limited resources. That's really what it is. So I don't have the time. Yes, we're all busy. Everyone's got the same amount of time in a day. And look, ultimately, it's understanding that we have to allocate the time, right? We've got to say no to things, which we spoke about before. So really getting good at the boundaries and saying no. The money thing. So we've got beliefs around money. I still do, right? And I'm always challenging myself to change these beliefs or create new ones, and even take beliefs from other people, right? And one is that you need money to get into a deal. That is true, but it doesn't have to be your money. Rob, and I know you can speak into this.
I teach 7 different ways that you can profit when you've got little or no money. So my catchphrase, folks, do not let your lack of resources stop you from being resourceful. There are very, very many different ways to solve the same problem. So you've got to ask yourself the question over and over, how do I, with what I've got, how do I achieve that? And if you can do that, there is always a solution to the problem at hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And often lack of knowledge also comes across as limited resources. So just not understanding what to do yet, right? We love using the term yet in your vocabulary because this is a process, and if you apply the process, then you will build the confidence and you'll have the ability to then actually make the decisions that you need to make. But also, it's the right support network too. And often I see this with students coming into the program, and this is why, and I say this all the time, and students would have heard me say this, that the course content is fantastic. It's critical, it's important, and the way we roll it out is awesome. But as important is the community, right? It's the people it's the meetups, it's the calls that you jump on. Because one of my mentors, and this gentleman, Rob, said the phrase, proximity is power, right? And it is.
So who you hang around with, the 5 people you hang around with are going to determine the destiny, and I guess your network determines your net worth. is the other way of actually framing that. So yes, you should be hanging around with people that are going in the same direction that you're going. Now, as humans, we're a herd pack. If you hang around with a herd of people who don't like property development, they're going to tell you it's a bad thing, right? And so when they're trying to protect you because they want to keep you in the herd. So go and get yourself a new herd. Hang around with a bunch of people who are actually doing this. Go to the property networking events. We run them all the way around the country, folks. As a matter of fact, that's a really good time for me to go. Here's a link to come to our property events. Hopefully that'll turn up on the screen in a sec. So there it is. Look at that. So hang around with a herd of people that are going in the same direction as you. Now, Simon, you picked up on something and you kind of threw it out there, and I don't think people picked up the power of what you actually said. And that is a key word, yet. Okay, so I'm going to dive into that a little bit deeper. What we tend to do is we tend to throw out negative statements. I can't do that, right? Whatever that is. And so we throw it as a negative statement. The challenge with that is when we verbalize that, I guess, consciously, our subconscious mind is listening. So our subconscious mind starts to then filter that through a thing called the reticular activating system, or the RAS. And so now it starts to preconceive ideas. When it has ideas come its own way, it says, well, I can't do that. So just throws it away, right? But if you change that statement by adding one word, and that word often, but not always, is the word yet, it changes the negative statement into a question. Now, by turning it into a question, the subconscious mind now is open to the possibility that there might be a solution. And because it's open to the possibility if there might be a solution, it actually goes looking for the solution. Now, you've got to catch yourself with those negative statements, folks, and find what is the one or two words that you can add to change that statement into a question. I'm going to say 80% of the time, the word yet is probably going to be the one that gets you there.
Yeah, and to add to that as well, you don't need to solve the problems on your own either. Okay, so if you feel like you've got limited resources, the more you get around the proximity of people that are doing this, that are successful already, you can borrow their beliefs, you can take ownership of their beliefs, right? And they can replace your existing beliefs, because you can't solve a problem with the same level of thinking that created it. I think that's the same from Einstein. Guys, is that it?
Einstein. You can't solve a problem with the same thinking you used to create it.
Yeah. So learning to ask for help, right? You don't have to do this on your own. Okay. So staying in touch with the community and making sure that you've got the right people around you, and stop talking to people that don't believe in it. Get away from them and come to us.
Well, absolutely. There's lots of different opportunities to hang around with like-minded people doing that. But yes, you should actually do that. And ask questions from people who are actually qualified to answer them. So there's no point talking to someone who's never done property development and say, do you think I should do this investment, right? You want to talk to someone who's done that kind of deal and ask them, someone who's qualified, done it, been there, done that, okay? And probably the last one that I would say is a quote from Warren Buffett, and that is all about risk, and it comes back from an education perspective. Risk only comes from not knowing what you're doing. So if you start to educate yourself and you start to hang around with people that are doing the things that you are doing, and they can teach you, we can teach you, lots of other people can teach you, but you want to start to educate yourself and de-risk your process, and then you will start to think very, very positively, and that lack of resources will now start to get you thinking resourcefully. Now, next one. Negative self-talk. How many times have we had that little, I got an angel on this one and a devil on this one? How many times are we telling ourselves that we're terrible?
Day in, day out. And I love what you said previously, Rob, where you were talking about the subconscious mind doesn't know, doesn't know the difference between truth and, it's only taking on board what you're telling it, essentially, right? And one thing that I say to all of my students is, say what you mean and mean what you say, because the subconscious is listening. And it's absolutely mind-blowing how many students come to the coaching calls and there is this negativity in their self-talk and they don't even realize it. That's the most important thing. They don't even realize it. So our job as coaches is to bring that up to them, to mirror back to them what they're saying to themselves. And it's really important that we keep our self-talk in check, because it's that internal dialogue that can be really exhausting. And over time, it drains your confidence and your self-worth. And that tends to be a big topic that we cover in our coaching sessions as well. So you really want to be constantly looking. Step one for any change, particularly when it comes to mindset, is self-awareness. And that's the hardest piece. It sounds very easy, but it's the hardest, because it's a story that you've been telling yourself on autopilot over and over again. And you've told it that much that it's become a belief. It's become almost a conviction, and this is who I am, and I can't change it. So our job is constantly, looking out for these thoughts, helping them reframe their thoughts, and replacing the criticism. It's so interesting how often students will go straight to criticism, and they don't look for, the learnings, the lessons, and we're here to give them that constructive feedback. So when you're looking at your thoughts, even if the negativity is there, which is fine, that might have been a pattern of behavior that you've had most of your life, but you can reprogram that. But that comes with self-compassion and really focusing on the growth aspect and how far you've come. And rather than looking at perfection, this is what really triggers that negative self-talk too, is, people are focusing on perfection, but you really want to start replacing thoughts like I can't to I'm capable. It's a very simple shift, but you have to be conscious that you're doing it and it's not a truth, and you do have a choice in the thoughts that you're telling yourself.
And you touched on the self-awareness thing, and so I guess I gave a little tip before with regards to how to become 1% better. So this is actually how that works, okay, is the self-awareness part of it. So when you set your intentions for the morning, and then in the afternoon or the evening, you then reflect on that, there might be 10 hours between that mistake happening and you actually becoming aware of it, actually trying to do that. Which means that the next day, when you set your new intentions, you're going to say, well, I'm not going to make that mistake again. And this time you get through to lunchtime, and then you reflect back and you go, well, now it's only 8 hours. And then it's going to be 6 hours, then it's going to be 4. And eventually you get to the point where you catch it in the moment. And at the moment you catch it in the moment, that is the point when you can choose to either react or respond. Now, most of the time we have been reacting up until this point in time, but as soon as we become self-aware, as soon as we actually notice, hey, that's that bad thing that I'm doing all the time, now we can respond. Now we can choose what our actions are, and that's how you get 1% better.
Love it.
There you go. Now, next one, lack of persistence. How many times have you seen people who come out like a bull out of a gate and go, yep, I'm going to do this. And they think that it's a sprint, and they don't realize that it's actually a marathon.
Yeah, we see it a lot. And it really, the obvious one it comes down to is unrealistic expectations. So it's the overestimating on what we can do in the short term and underestimating what's possible if we just stay consistent and take small action steps, right? And so that's the big one we see. So, coming in, if you're starting from ground zero, and Megan touched on this before about the self-comparison thing, it sort of crosses over with this as well. People comparing themselves to other people who we've got no idea where they've come from and, what they've got going on in their life. So it's our perception, that we should be doing something creates this lack of persistence, in my opinion, because we just give up far too easily, and we don't reach out to people. We don't have the right support around us. So we feel like we're alone then on this journey, because again, we think we have to do this on our own when we don't have to. In fact, in order to be successful, you're never going to do it on your own, right? And so understanding that up front, that it's a collaboration process, right? It's getting the right people around you. It's reaching out when you have to, learning to ask for help, which can be really challenging, right? Because there's a badge of honor, right, in this. I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to roll the sleeves up, and I'm going to dig deep, and I'm going to get it done, right? And this has become culture now as well. And I think we've just got to simplify this, and we've got to bring it back to understanding that it is a process. I think having goals is fantastic. Having, big, audacious, hairy goals, Rob. I know you've spoken about that before. Fantastic. Okay, that's the macro part, but we've got to get down to basics as well and understand that it's about executing daily actions, okay, on a regular basis. Now, you spoke about the 4 stages of learning before, so it's really understanding that you have to go through that process and that the confidence comes right at the end, right? So,
well, you actually go on an emotional roller coaster when it actually happens. And so back in my IT days, they actually had some names for this, but I'll reflect it. But it's an emotional roller coaster we go on. So first of all, we have the peak of inflated expectations. We think this is a get-rich-quick scheme, and that we're going to get into this as soon as humanly possible, make $1 million, and we're going to retire in no time flat. So we have this inflated expectations. So that's as we come in with the unconscious incompetence, because we don't know what we don't know. Then all of a sudden we get to the next stage, the conscious incompetence. Then we fall down the trough, and it's called the trough of disillusionment. You suddenly realize, oh my goodness, there's so much to learn. There's no way I'm ever going to learn this. And then slowly, as you start to learn, you come up to, I guess, what eventually becomes the plateau of productivity. So the slope of enlightenment and the plateau of productivity. So as you go through that emotional roller coaster, it all ties back to the 4 phases of learning. So if you are feeling that you want to give up, know where you are in your learning cycle and go, right, I just need to get a little bit further along so I can actually start to feel that I'm getting some success. Break it down into the bite-sized pieces and reward yourself for those little micro goals that you set along the way. And then you're going to start to go, I can actually, what was it, Puffing Billy? Or sorry, which one? I think I can to get up the hill. That's basically what you're going to do, folks.
And I'll just add to that as well. The other thing is relying on motivation as well is a terrible barometer because it's so fleeting. So, relying on when you feel motivated and feel up to do something is not gonna cut the mustard. And I see that as well as something where we've got to look deeper than that. We've got to understand the process, Rob, that you just spoke about, and know where we are on that journey as well. And I just want to encourage everyone there's a story in Think and Grow Rich. It's called 3 Feet from Gold. It is absolutely an amazing lesson. There's a gentleman called R.U. Darby. Now, Darby, back in the gold rush days, he ventured off to Colorado in the US and bought all this machinery and started digging for gold, and was digging, didn't find anything, packed up everything, sold up. And his machinery, there was a junkyard gentleman who actually basically bought this machinery for next to nothing. And so he then hired an engineer to give him a report on the actual underground to see what was going on, and realized they were 3 feet away from an actual a gold vein running in the surface. So that's how innocuous it was, and how he was able to, turn what was junk into gold, essentially. And so, interestingly enough, Darby became really, really successful as a result of actually going through that experience as well. So he ended up being a salesman, selling life insurance. He started selling life insurance and was just incredibly successful because he took the lesson out of that failure.
Very good. That's which we should all do. It's the learning phase, isn't it, Megan?
Can I just add one more thing to that? So with the lack of persistence as well, people need to understand that every decision us humans make is based on emotion. This is scientifically proven. I can hear many people out there saying, not me, I'm logical, but that's not actually true. Science has proven every decision we make is based in emotion and backed up with logic. And so obviously if you're starting something like a new career in property development, well, your emotions are what? They're going to be high initially. And then I think as people go along the journey and they've got, that self-talk's coming in, the procrastination, unmet needs, all this other stuff's going on for them at a subconscious level that they're unaware of. Well, their emotions are basically telling them to stop, right? So I am huge for understanding emotions, for processing them in real time. People know that I'm trauma informed. I'm a trauma informed coach, so I very much understand emotions. However, when it comes to your goals and success, sometimes shutting off your emotions and just deciding to do the hard thing and take action, no matter what, that can really keep you, pushing through that lack of persistence. So I see that come up a lot. It's the emotions that really keep people stuck when they just need to keep going, and they need to almost shut off their emotions and just do the thing that they said they were going to do.
Very good. Lucky last one, perfectionism.
Oh, it's another one of my favorites. So we see this a lot with our students, and I know, again, it's because there's that self-imposed pressure that they have to get everything right, whether it's, securing the perfect deal, their most ideal, perfect first deal, or managing their budgets and making sure they don't blow out, or designing their most perfect project. I see that a lot as well. And that's, because we are in a high stakes game, we're in a high stakes environment where it can force our students to overanalyze and delay their decisions, which ultimately is delaying their progress and their success. But what's important to understand about perfectionism is it stems from a fear of failure and that desire to meet unrealistic expectations, but they're self-imposed expectations. We really need to understand that. And again, that's going to be tapping into the mindset and creating strength in your thoughts. And you really need to start shifting from perfectionism to progress and embracing the idea that mistakes are part of learning and they're part of, your success game as well.
Absolutely. So there's a really great book out there. I can't remember the name of the author, but it's Ready, Fire, Aim.
Yes.
And it's basically just get it out there. And some of the things that I learned very, very early on, if anyone who's watching this YouTube right now, I'm going to encourage you, or maybe not, go back to episode number 1 and have a look at how terrible Rob was. Back then he had hair, I'm pretty sure. But if you have a look, I was not perfect on camera. I didn't know how to do YouTubes, and I didn't know what buttons to press and all those sorts of things. But the only way I was actually going to learn is to get into the arena and actually do the job. And so I think it's Marcus Aurelius, the quote, it's not those, it's those that are actually in the arena that are covered in sweat and tears and that sort of thing that actually will get the outcomes. It's not the people on the sidelines that are kind of judging them. Get in the arena, folks. Do stuff. Learn from the stuff. And as I touched on a little bit earlier, you are going to make mistakes. You are going to fall over. You're going to fail. Make sure you've got a support group that sits around you that will help you to get back up, dust you off, and push you back into the arena. Learn to fail safely. You don't lose money if you're you only lose money if you're in a shitty deal. So make sure that you only lose money doing the site assessment. Make sure you only lose money doing the feasibility. Make sure you, stuff up your negotiations. You're going to learn through every single one of those phases. But as you start to do that, you're going to get better and better and better and better and better until finally you're at the point where you can actually get yourself a deal.
Yeah.
And even then, put yourself a due diligence clause in there, and then get all of your consultants to validate and sanity check everything that you have done, folks. That is your insurance policy to make sure because none of us are perfect, and I can assure you that I have made many, many mistakes in my projects. But the day you make a mistake and walk away with money on the table or in the bank, it's a really good day, folks, and you feel really good about yourself.
Yeah, you've got to take massive imperfect action, and that's an acronym that I teach a lot of students is BTEA. So it's beliefs, thoughts, emotions, and actions. And it's that action piece. You have to, it's not just mindset, you have to take action. And that's also reprogramming the subconscious mind to know that, well, look, nothing's gone wrong. I didn't take perfect action and I still got the result. So yeah, it goes a long way to creating new belief systems as well. Take massive imperfect action and you will get there.
There you go. So just to summarize it all, folks, number 1 was lack of clarity. Number 2, fear of failure. Number 3, lack of focus. Number 4 was procrastination. Number 5 was overwhelm. Then number 6, self-comparison. Number 7, limited resources. Number 8, negative self-talk. Number 9, lack of persistence. And number 10, lucky last, was perfectionism. So that was the 10 things that we see people commonly show up with, and hopefully the antidotes that you guys get to get there. Any passing words of wisdom that you would like to throw out? I'll take I guess a word from each of you before closing it out.
Yeah, just one more saying that I love. I love sport, and Mike Tyson, really, really famous athlete, and he said everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face, right? So if you've got that attitude, understand things are going to go wrong, right? Challenges happen, setbacks happen. However, there's always a solution. So I just want to leave on that note.
Yeah, we'll try not to get punched in the face, mate. Megan?
I don't know how to follow that one. All I would say is, like, quite honestly, we've got one life and you've got to make your own opportunities. And I can't stress enough, it's the people you surround yourself with, because they do influence your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, your behaviors. Everything that you do can be transferred from, those that you're surrounding yourself with. So if this is something that you want to do, take the chance. Don't sit back when you're 80 years of age and regretting what you should have done. It's lots of fun. It's hard work, but the payoff is well worth it.
Absolutely. Now, my passing thoughts, I'm going to kind of wrap all of that up into half a dozen things all back to back and see what we can do. Firstly, get very, very clear on what it is that you want to do. Choose one strategy. Get to know that one strategy very, very well. With that one strategy, you then want one counsel, because there's 537 counsels, which means 537 different ways to do the same thing. If you do that, you will get clarity. Have a strategy that is scalable. If you have a scalable, you can start small, de-risk things, learn the process, step up deal sizes as you go, as you build your confidence, learning from the previous project as you go before. If you then hang around with a community of people who are doing exactly the thing that you are doing, and preferably the strategy that you're actually doing, you're going to surround yourself with the 5 people or more. We get 120 people at some of our events, folks. Surround yourself with people actually doing doing the thing that you want to do. Learn from the lessons of that. Watch both good and bad on real deals of everything that's actually happened in our previous events. And I'm going to put our events link up again because we run these all the way around the country. Then, once you got very, very clear on what it is that you want to do, educate yourself to take away the risk of making a mistake through the process. So whilst we do education, we've been talking about a lot of our students, we're not the only ones, folks. Once you know your strategy, then you know which educator is the one that's going to be the right one for you. Do not go to a sales pitch and hear the educator tell you how good they are and then find out it's the wrong strategy for you. Choose the strategy first, then choose the educator. Then at that point, slow and steady. Take time pressure away from you. Just focus on the tasks at hand. Break that elephant up into bite-sized pieces. Do a piece at a time, and you will get through the overwhelm. And when you get to the other side, folks, you too will become a mega successful property developer. So there you go, folks. Now, if you have not ever heard of us before, if you want to get involved in this sort of thing, the links are below on how to come to our meetups. We run these in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and Adelaide. So all the way around the country, no matter where you are, if you want to learn property development, come and meet myself, Simon, Megan, and a whole bunch of other people out there, absolute rock stars doing the things. I'm going to say till then, folks, bye for now.
See you guys.